Okay, resumes do not stand on their own. You do not submit a resume by itself. When you submit a resume in hard copy anyway, you will be submitting that resume with either a cover letter or a letter of application. They're the same thing. So the next series of lectures talks about the accompaniment to a resume, which is the letter of application or a cover letter. Like the resume, the letter of application is also a chance for you to demonstrate your ability to handle the written word. This is your chance to show the employer that you can use language, that you're not only a subject matter expert, you're not only an engineer, you're also able to write well, and this doubles the chances that you have of being employed. Now, the purpose of a letter of application or the purpose of a cover letter is to communicate a specific targeted message to the employer about your potential value to the organization. When I was talking about the targeted resume, I told you that there was a problem in writing a targeted resume. You don't want to write targeted resumes because targeted resumes writing a resume is very difficult. You want to have a resume on your computer, whether it's a chronological resume or a functional resume, that you can add to over time, make corrections to, make additions to, and then whenever you want to apply for a job, you make sure it's up to date, you make sure it's correct, you make sure that it looks good, and you print out a copy of it or you submit it online. But you're basically not changing that resume much other than to update it and make sure that it is correct. But you can't do that with the letter of application, because regardless of whether or not you're applying for the same type of job, each individual company may be looking for slightly different skill sets. So you might be applying for an entry-level engineer, or you might be applying for a job as an assistant manager. But each individual company might expect different things of their assistant managers. And so you can't just submit the same cover letter or the same letter of application for every assistant manager position. Plus, you also want to research the individual company and, if possible, include specific information about that individual company in the letter, if there's room for it, if there's time for it and a place for it. And that means that you can't take the letter that you submitted to Company A, including information about Company A, and then turn around and submit it to Company B, even if you're submitting it for the exact same type of job, because Company A may be looking for something a little bit different in that position. They may have something just a little bit different going on in their company, in their organization, that does not apply to Company B. And you have to take all of that into consideration when you write your letter to Company A and when you write your letter to Company B, because you may have a different value to each organization based on the needs of each organization. So you target your message in the letter of application, and you focus on what each company is looking for, what each company needs from you. So you have to write a targeted letter, and you have to write a new letter every single time you apply for a job. You can use the same resume over and over again, but you have to write a new letter every single time you apply. Now, your letter of application should answer the question, why should you hire me over everybody else? You do not, however, want to actually ask that question in the letter. You want to be subtle. You want to lead them to that question. Why are you the one right candidate? Everything in the letter should answer that question without you having to actually pose that question. So you need to do certain things throughout the letter. First thing you need to do, introduce yourself. Second thing you need to do in your letter of application, emphasize important information from your resume. Do not ever just tell them, see my resume for more information. You need to go through and pick and choose information from the various jobs on your resume and show how they come together to actually qualify you for this position. And then you actually need to ask for the interview. And in your last paragraph, give them contact information. Once again, don't tell them to see your resume for the contact information. Don't tell them, see my resume for information on how to contact me. There's always the possibility that your resume and your letter may be separated from each other. So you have to give them information on how to get in touch with you in your letter itself so that they aren't baffled about how to get in touch with this incredibly qualified individual, but they don't have the resume anymore. Now, in your first paragraph, you actually introduce the purpose not only of the letter, but you also introduce yourself. Tell them how you learned about the position and be specific. Did you learn about it from reading the Bryan College Station Eagle classifieds? There's nothing wrong with that. But don't tell them that you just happened to be browsing through the classifieds. Nobody browses through the classifieds. If you're reading the classifieds, you're doing it because you're looking for a job. If you found the information about the job in a newspaper, make sure that you use the correct name of the newspaper and make sure that you italicize that newspaper name. It should be spelled correctly and it should be presented correctly. If you are going to drop a name, make sure that you drop that person's name correctly, that you spell that name correctly, and make sure that that person is prepared to sing your praises from the highest mountaintop. If you are going to say, Dr. Janach recommended I apply, when they call me to ask me for a recommendation, it should not sound like a total surprise that they are calling me. I should also be your biggest cheerleader. I should not sound as though I have been taken by surprise that you actually took me up on that. Specify the job you are applying for. A lot of times they will have more than one entry-level position open. If they have listed this on a job search website, if they've listed it on their own company website, they will actually give you a position number. Give them that specific position number so that they know exactly which job you're applying for and they know exactly what the requirements of that job are. And then specify the purpose of your letter. Actually ask them, may I have a moment of your time to discuss my qualifications? Pay attention to the social niceties. Be polite. May I have a moment of your time? I'd like to take a moment of your time to discuss my qualifications. Asking for their permission. No, you're not going to wait until they write you back and give you permission. But paying attention to manners, paying attention to the social niceties. So few people actually do this now that you will wind up standing out because you do. People like when you are polite to them. People like other people to have manners. Even if they don't have manners themselves, people like it when you show manners, when you show good manners. So ask them, may I have a moment of your time to discuss my qualifications for this position? Or I'd like to take a moment of your time to discuss my qualifications. Let that be the ending sentence of your introduction. I have a couple of introductions from previous students' letters. I'm going to give you a chance to read through it. or you can pause this and read through it if you need to, but in the interest of saving my voice, I'm not going to read them through for it. But you can see that they're both stating the specific job they're applying for. They're both stating how they found out about the job. They're both saying that they'd like to take the opportunity, or they'd like to take a moment to actually discuss their qualifications. You can both see also that they're both very different. So they're doing the things I just talked about, but they're not doing it in a form letter. There is no form letter to a good letter of application. Now, paragraphs 2 and 3. This is the actual body of your letter. In the body of your letter, you need to go through and describe your skills, your qualification, your education, your experience, but more importantly, you need to describe their significance. You never mention anything in your letter without explaining why it matters to this employer. Why does the degree you're about to graduate matter to this employer? Why does your previous work experience matter to this employer? How does it all come together to matter to this employer? How does it all come together to qualify you for this job? That's what you're doing. You're picking and choosing and pulling things together from unrelated jobs, from unrelated work experience, from your education, from 2 or 3 other jobs you might have had, and you're showing how that qualifies you for this one position. If you have a good job posting, a good job listing, refer back to the job listing. According to your job listing, you are looking for somebody with, and then go through and explain how you meet that criteria. And I have here, once again, an example from a previous student's letter. And yes, this is a much older letter. We don't talk about the PC anymore, but it's talking about the job notice that was sent. And this is what you're looking for, and this is what I have. Once again, here's another one from a previous student's letter of application. This is what my experience is. This is why it matters to you. This is how you would benefit. The focus is on how this student's experience will matter to this employer. I have this, that would benefit your company in this way. Once again, I have this, it will benefit you in this way. And then in that last paragraph, in your closing, ask for the interview. Offer dates and times that you are available, but make it very clear that it's up to the potential employer. I am available at this time. Please choose a time that is convenient for you. And then include a phone number. Don't tell them to refer to your resume, because they may not have your resume with them. So you can't tell them to just look at the resume. Oftentimes the letter is separated from the resume, and the resume may be in somebody else's office, and you may have somebody actually reading through the letter, trying to figure out from the letter whether or not this person is qualified for the job. So all of the information that they need should be included in the letter. That means you have to ask yourself, is there enough information in this letter to justify calling you in for an interview? And if there is, do you give them the information that they need to contact you for that interview? So once again, here's an example from a student letter. I'm impressed with the opportunities. I would be thrilled to work for you. I'm available to interview anytime after. Please call me at your convenience. I'm interested in joining the office and would like to come in for an interview at your convenience. I can be reached anytime after at. So specifically saying, I can be reached at. I'd like an interview. I'd like to work for you. Asking for the interview.